How can a tiny, completely uninhabited island, one that's probably smaller than your local park, become the center of a massive, decades-long fight between two whole countries?
Well, that's exactly what's happening with Katchatheevu. We're talking about just 285 acres. It's this little patch of land sitting in the strait between India and Sri Lanka. And yet, for half a century, it's been the cause of a major international dispute that has actual life-or-death consequences.
And believe me, this isn't some old story from a history book. It is happening right now. You've got a really powerful regional leader in India publicly demanding that the country's prime minister get that island back right away to protect his people. So today, we're going to break down the Katchatheevu Island dispute. We'll look at how a 50-year-old agreement is still causing arrests, creating huge political tension, and even leading to tragic deaths on the water.
So you might be wondering, why is this flaring up again right now? Well, the spark was a pretty standard diplomatic event, a state visit.
Here's what happened. The Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Harini Amarasuriya, recently paid a visit to India. Almost immediately, the Chief Minister of the Indian state of Tamil Nadu, M.K. Stalin, shot off a formal letter. His demand was crystal clear. Use this visit to start the process of getting Katchatheevu back.
But to really get the passion behind that demand, you have to understand this island's long and, honestly, very complicated history.
Way back in the 17th century, this island belonged to a local Indian kingdom. But then, fast forward to 1921 when the British were in charge. They administratively lumped it in with Ceylon, which we now know as Sri Lanka. So when both countries got their independence, India claimed the island based on its history. And that kicked off a dispute that festered for decades until it was officially settled in 1974.
Now, that 1974 agreement is the absolute heart of this story. It's the piece of paper that made the island officially change hands, and it's the root cause of all the trouble today.
And a huge factor in getting this deal done was actually the personal friendship between the two leaders at the time, India's Indira Gandhi and Sri Lanka's Sirimavo Bandaranaike. You're talking about two of the world's very first female prime ministers. It's said that their strong bond really helped smooth over the process of the handover. So here's the breakdown of the deal. India gave up all claims, full sovereignty, over the island to Sri Lanka. In return, Indian fishermen kept the right to stop there to rest and dry their nets, and pilgrims could visit a church on the island without a visa. Think of it like this. You give your neighbor a corner of your backyard, but you say, hey, I can still come over and sit on that bench whenever I want.
But, and this is the multi-million-dollar question, there was a critical piece missing. The agreement said fishermen could rest on the island, but it said absolutely nothing about their right to fish in the waters around it. Those waters became part of Sri Lanka's territory, its exclusive economic zone. And that one omission is the source of all the conflict.
And that diplomatic decision, which was made in a spirit of friendship, has had absolutely devastating real-world consequences for the fishing communities who depend on that area.
You see, for years, that border wasn't really enforced. It was kind of just an invisible line in the water. But everything changed after 2009 when Sri Lanka's civil war ended. The Sri Lankan Navy ramped up its patrols in a big way, and suddenly that invisible line became a very hard, very dangerous boundary.
The data from an official parliamentary report is just stark. Hundreds of Indian fishermen are arrested every single year by the Sri Lankan Navy for crossing into these waters. Dozens have been killed over the years. And when you look at the other side, very, very few Sri Lankan fishermen face anything like that.
The seriousness of the situation was put on full display when Sri Lanka's then Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe, actually said on television that if Indian fishermen crossed the border, they could be shot. I mean, can you imagine the fear that statement caused in those fishing villages?
So, with tensions this high and lives literally at stake, you'd think there would be a race to find a solution. But the reality is, well, it's way more complicated.
Whenever politicians in Tamil Nadu bring this up, the official response from India's central government is usually the same. The issue is being discussed in a joint working group. The problem is, this working group has been working for a long time with very little to show for it.
And trying to undo that 1974 agreement? It's seen as a diplomatic nightmare. It's so difficult that, during a court hearing, a lawyer for the Indian government actually said that reclaiming Katchatheevu would require India to wage war on Sri Lanka. That's how permanent this deal is considered to be.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the most important takeaways here. First, the deal itself is controversial because some argue it was done improperly. Second, the agreement gave fishermen access to the land, but crucially,
not the surrounding fishing waters. And third, this has led to a painful diplomatic stalemate with no clear solution in sight.
Which leaves us with a really tough final question. How do you balance a historic diplomatic agreement against an ongoing human crisis? Can a 50-year-old handshake ever be undone to save lives today?
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into what is a really complex and sensitive issue.
If you found this explainer helpful, we'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And of course, please like this video and make sure you subscribe for more insights into the world's most important stories. We'll see you next time.